G'day, welcome back. It's been slow progress, well boring progress anyway, but I'll show you what I've been up to. It's been raining the last couple of days, so all I've been doing is just tidying up some of the wiring in the, well, I was going to say engine bay, but behind the dash. So in a standard Fairmont dash, you'll already have stuff like a temp sender, which is here, I think. Yep, temps. Which you just plug into the new gauge, which is really handy. You've got to make sure you've got 12 volts going from the ignition to that gauge as well. So I've got a cable running that. This wasn't running from the ignition, so I had to rerun it from the ignition switch. Also, a couple of peculiar things. I don't know if this is standard or not, but I had my high beam warning lamp, which I think is this one here, ground to the wiper switch. So I don't know if that's supposed to happen, but I couldn't have it like that. Something else to consider in putting this dash in, stuff like your high beams, which is here on a normal dash, is now going to be above the speedo, so I had to reroute that and re-earth that against the body. Alternator light's going to be above here instead of over here on the side. Your dash lights are all the same, they should be okay. I did find a map online, which I'll pop on the screen now, which is really helpful. I'll see if I can put an address for it as well. That was nice because it was all colour coded, even though it did say there was some errors in there on some forums, but so much easier to follow that than the old, this thing here. In a standard Fairmont, your oil wire will be connected to a globe holder like this and an earth or power. I think it's with power, basically showing when the oil temp warning light should go on. So because we've already got the wire here and we're not having a light, it's just the gauge, we just need to rejig that terminal like that. So I'm pretty happy with how that's cleaned up. I've also cleaned up some of the other wiring behind here. Don't judge me on my organising skills, but look, it's a lot better than what it was. It's just a lot easier having the wires a bit more forward, so I can actually put them in the dash without trying to do it from behind. And I've also tidied up speaker wires and other bits and pieces as well. And the wires going to my stereo when it'll get in there. So hopefully it's going to look nicer. So if you have a look at the speedo, you'll notice that, oh, pretty. This is all white in here. See that? And that white is going to reflect light really, really well. The tacho, which is, is not. So, old mate recommended, pull this apart. I might have to re-glue this little thing in here because he said they're a bit dodgy. So re-glue those. And then just paint the inside of this like a white, which will help give me even reflection when the lights are in there. Jeez, don't lose these. Okay. Right, there's the inside of our tacho. Let's go give that a quick paint job. There's our face of it, if you want to know what that looks like. The guy said that'll stay off 0. Apparently it resets itself every time. Doesn't look like there's much to it, does there? Hopefully it does the job really well. But, yep, he was right. You might need to re-glue that. Lucky I've got a glue gun and can do exactly that. I'm just using some of this shit here, paint and prime from Bunnings. Supposed to bond to metal, wood, whatever, paint and prime. So, whatever, doesn't have to be spectacular. But my oh my, doesn't it look spectacular? Right, that looks okay. Well, I let this glue gun warm up for 5 seconds and it's already pissing out glue, so careful. That's better. Beautiful. Rightio, time to start assembling the dashboard. Now on the old dash, I had this here LED light to come on to tell me when the thermofan was operating, and it was so bright, like it was really bright at night. It lit up half the car. So what I thought I could do is take apart this temperature gauge, drill a small hole there, and put in one of these really low voltage LEDs, which wouldn't blind me. But because these things aren't 24 volts, I hooked it up to the battery and tested it, and it blew. So great job wiring and soldering and heat shrinking that little wire. But luckily I did all of that before I drilled holes and installed it, because it would have been a waste of time. So plan B, we're going back to this type of LED. It is going to stick out a little bit more than what I would have hoped. But look, I bought a couple, so I might even try and paint one black so it's not as obvious and it's as integrated as it can. And I've got some resistors, so I'll run those resistors in series with the power coming from the thermofan power, and hopefully that'll dim it a little bit. And I'll do that outside the car. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take off this plate off the temp gauge. Now you can buy these plates, I think they're about $20, and before you move it, just mark where it lines up. You will need a screwdriver to pry those open a little bit, but I've already done that. So I'm just going to pry that, move that across like so. Put that aside, and you can see it's almost like this was built for it, because I've already got some holes going through the back. This should go straight through there at the bottom like that, and not actually get in the way of any of this sort of stuff here. So a couple of little bendy bends in there, just moving those couple of wires out the way, and we should be okay. I just did a punch. I reckon it looks pretty centered on, so let's get the drilling happening. Alright, that doesn't look too bad. Careful, 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 just a bit at a time, and I think that looks pretty good, even with the bezel on it. If you give it a quick test to make sure I haven't stuffed up the globe. Oh yes. Car's hot, car's cold, car's hot, car's cold, car's hot, car's cold. Okay, so there it is, all assembled. Now, you may notice that I've taped it in. That's because the nut is so close to the actual housing that it won't go all the way down. So I've had to bend this tab all the way over, which I don't know if that's going to stuff me up for anything else, but if it does, like I said, I've got a spare one of these. I just don't want to use it and break it already. And I've gone over the sides. Now, you don't see the sides when you put this in the actual housing. The thing that goes over the top, and it looks okay. But that looks, well, aside from that stuff, pretty good. I'm just going to leave it for a bit. I need to wipe it clean. My smudgy handprints have got all over it. But I'm pretty happy with how that turns out. So they went in okay. Just nipped them up for now, because I know I've got to run some power off the top one and a couple of earths and whatnot. But overall, not too bad. Now just be bloody careful with these orange needles, because in giving them a wipe, I've bent two of them, but I've bent them back in the spot. But oh, just nervous putting this stuff together, because I know if I stuff it up, it's just expensive. So now I have to rob a couple of parts off this dash. So I need the retaining springs here. This earth wire between both the, will be the Speedo and a Taco, and this bit here, which is the indicator globe holder. So I'm just going to unscrew them, and then I might need to heat up and then pry off, but we'll see how we go. So I've just removed these retainer springs, and on the other side, the paint's starting to come out. So like everything with this job, I'm going to give these a quick once over with just some matte black. Same here. I mean, you can't see that, you'll be able to see that top bit there. I just want an easy job. Alright, let's just give these a quick paint, and I'll come back to removing this. So I've got a couple of these bits off, the indicator globe bit and the brake globe bit. But I didn't need it, because it's going to go through that gauge pot over here. But I did take an extra couple off, just in case I want to use it for this piece here, which is going to be my hidden shift light. Yes. To get them off, I just got a sharp razor and just slice through those bits of plastic there. To put it on, I'm just going to use a glue gun. Whilst the paint around these rings is waiting to dry, I'm going to put these lens and these lens thingos in and just button this piece up here. I'm wearing gloves because, I don't know, that's just after the day I've had. I don't really trust not wearing them. So it is bubble towards driver. So if you've got this, there's two dots Those two dots should be facing back this way, and the two screw holes should be countersunk. And it's very hard to tell because they're clear. And these are aftermarket dashes. You've just got to be super gentle about screwing these in. Oh, look at that progress. That's the most excited I've been just fitting these things since I started this whole bloody project. Now let's chuck this on here, and geez, I hope I've got clearance now with my my LED light. When I got these screws from the GT shop, the guy said just hack a couple of threads off them just in case they're too long and go through. They should be okay, but he said you don't want to turn the dash around and find you've got 6 screws looking at you in the face. Good advice. I'm not going silly tight with these either, just enough to secure it. This one's not being very cooperative. That'll be why, because I'm not even near the bloody hole. It's secure enough. And that looks oh, you slut. There's a tiny bit of dust on the bloody inside of the temp gauge. You bastard. Tell me what you reckon of this. So here is a shift light from a, I think it's a SAS tacho, and I'm going to run another tacho sort of over here, hidden, and running it to this little shift light here, and I want to mount it to this bit here. And now these indicator coil, now these indicate old globe things are almost a perfect bloody fit. So I could almost chuck that straight in there and get it mounted. Now the current mount is one of these ones. So if I just continue to mount that like so, lop that off there, drill a hole through there, pop that into there, bob's your uncle, it's mounted. So I'm going to do this because that's a fun job. I'm pretty proud of this, and I want to show you what I did with this shift light before I nip it all up. This is the shift light here. I've profiled it just with a file, so when it goes in here, which is the lamp thing, it sort of sits flush. Then I've used one of these old things that used to go here, bashed it out, whacked a little joiner on there, which was the original, what do you call that thing? Mount for the shift light, and Bob your uncle, we're in. So I'm going to just solder these up here, which are extensions to the actual light, positive and negative, and once that's in, I'll glue that in and we're done. Just a tip when you're soldering these things together, I've just wound one wire around the other and then wound a very, very small bit of solder along there as well. So all I need to do is heat it up either side, cover it with heat shrink, route it along here, and then that's it, shift light installed. Right, last part of the day, we're going to put our Speedo and tacho in. Got my rings back, I've repainted them. I don't know if you're supposed to glue these in or not. When I did them on my, the Fairmont a little while ago, I didn't. I just had them sit like that. And because they kind of sit in that recess, they don't really go anywhere. So I kind of just nip them up very, very carefully with the lens in there. This earth wire goes between these springs and that faceplate. So when you've got a difficult screw, the guys said the same thing. Just don't force it. You really don't want to split the plastic here. So I'm just trying to be gentle, almost like tapping it. Couple of turns in, couple of turns out. That's pretty good. Right, one last squirt. Now the fun part, let's put the taco first. Say goodbye. And hello to your new home. Installed. Same deal. Line her up. Push down. Not lined up as nicely as we could be, eh? It needs to be a bit more that way. Whoop. That needs to come out just a touch. There we go. Let me reveal. Ta-da! That is fantastic. Really like my shift light in there. And my chrome bezel temp light thingo, thermofan thingo, it looks alright too. There's a speck of dust right underneath the E in temp that's going to annoy the crap out of me. There's a couple of little nicks in the gauges, but look, overall, that looks sick. Alright, now I've just got to put it back in the car, which means tomorrow that's going to get all the painting stuff in the world. Time for a beer, I reckon.